Good evening. President Reagan today opened his second. Some bad news for the bureaucracy. Fewer government workers and a slashed federal payroll. Leslie Stahl reports.
The president started off with an announcement that he plans to reduce federal employment by 63,000 in 2 years.
In just 2 years, these reductions will save the taxpayers $1.3 billion. Millions of Americans today have had to tighten their belts because of the economic conditions, and it's time to put Washington on a diet, too.
He was asked when his economic program would begin to produce results.
We're not promising any instant cure. We don't believe that in a matter of several months, or probably even in the first year, we're going to see more than beginning signs of recovery. But we do believe that if the economies are passed, which and they should be, and the tax program, we should begin to see some effects, I would think, by the end of the 82 year.
Some reporters were threatening to boycott the news conference since questioners were picked ahead of time by lottery. But they didn't. The pre-choosing did seem, though, to sap the session of spontaneity, and it produced some awkward moments for the president.
And now, Jim Gerstenstang. No, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I looked at 1 instead of 3, Jim. I'm sorry. Tom DeFrank.
Some reporters whom past presidents seemed deliberately to avoid were chosen by lottery. One of them asked about the president's appointments.
Did you mean to give a signal to other Republicans that if they don't conform, that off will go their heads?
How can you say that about a sweet fellow like me?
And what about the right to life issue?
Are you opposed to contraception, which also denies the right to life?
No, I am not.
There was a question on abortion and on how public officials should determine when a life begins.
If you found a body on the street and you didn't know whether it was dead or alive, wouldn't you opt on the basis that it was alive and not start shoveling dirt on it until we determine and make, to the best of our ability, a determination of when life begins? We've been opting on the basis that, well, let's consider it they're not alive. I think that everything in our society calls for opting that they might be alive.
The president has appointed several anti-abortion leaders to key posts in the government from where they've been working to kill federal programs that distribute contraceptives and teach family planning. And indeed, those programs have been cut back in the president's economic proposals. Leslie Stahl, CBS News, the White House.
Labor Secretary Donovan told a congressional hearing today that budget cuts for public job programs would increase unemployment from the present 7.3% to 7.5%. Donovan defended the slash as not particularly humane, but necessary for the economy. 2 government reports today showed improvements in key segments of the economy, but the changes were too slight to cause much optimism. The Labor Department said that wholesale prices rose 0.8% in February, down 0.1% from January's increase. But February's figure still works out to an annual inflation rate of about 10%. And the department said that unemployment dropped 0.1% to 7.3% last month, although teenage joblessness rose to 19.3%. The governors of 8 major auto industry states met with President Reagan today to discuss the plight of their constituents, and the governors urged the president to negotiate with Japan a voluntary limit on auto exports to the United States. The stock market was mixed today. The Reagan administration today set the stage for a major foreign policy battle with Congress. It announced plans to sell Saudi Arabia additional equipment to increase the range and attack power of the F-15 jet fighters already ordered by the Saudis. The State Department said that the approval of extra-large fuel tanks and air-to-air missiles is needed to counter a serious deterioration of American security interests in the region. Israel criticized the U.S. decision, saying it will escalate a Middle East arms race and endanger Israeli security. More on the story from Diane Sawyer.
State Department officials say the military equipment for Saudi Arabia is part of a bigger plan designed to stabilize the Persian Gulf and eventually ensure
information confirmed to CBS News by intelligence sources. The Economist dispatch goes on to say Foreign Report believes President Carter withheld intelligence reports about this cooperation from the independent panel of experts. Israel and South Africa have issued routine denials. That was followed weeks later by reports of another unusual incident in the South Atlantic, this one a flash of infrared radiation detected by an early warning satellite last December 15th. A Johannesburg newspaper quoted U.S. intelligence officials as saying it was caused by a nuclear explosion. But the State Department and the Pentagon blamed a meteor.
We believe that the event, quote event, was natural and not man-made.
The December incident has not caused the White House panel to re-evaluate its conclusion that a meteor probably also caused the September 1979 flash. Dr. Leonard Weiss of the Senate Subcommittee on Nuclear Proliferation told CBS News he was skeptical about that finding 6 months ago.
I'm a little surprised at the zeal with which some people have tried to bring to the question of proving that this was not a nuclear event. Certainly there is, it does present, if it was a nuclear event, it presents a great political problem for the United States. And how we deal with it would not be the easiest question to ask of somebody. And I don't think it is possible to lay to rest this event with a report that indicates that a group of people feel that the probability of its not being a nuclear event is perhaps greater than half, and on that basis we all ought to forget about it and go to sleep.
The Reagan White House plans no further investigation of either incident. Robert Pierpoint, CBS News, Washington.
The Polish government today continued its crackdown on dissidents, charging 4 of them with seeking the violent overthrow of the country, an offense that could mean death. Meanwhile, Poland's largest independent union, Solidarity, reacted defiantly to Soviet orders that the labor rebellion be curtailed. Union leader Lech Walesa said that no one can accuse us of being cowards and pledged to continue efforts to oust dishonest government officials. Walesa has been trying to keep labor peace, traveling around the country to resolve local disputes before they become national issues. In Kabul, Afghanistan, gunmen who for 5 days have been holding a hijacked Pakistani plane with 116 persons aboard, including 6 Americans, shot one of the hostages today and threw him onto the runway. The victim, a Pakistani diplomat, died in a Kabul hospital 2 hours later. The 3 hijackers gave Pakistan until tomorrow morning to meet their demand that about 90 of their friends and relatives be released from Pakistani jails, but they didn't say what they would do then. Space officials said today our confidence is growing, and so they said that given no new surprises and no new problems, the maiden launch of the Space Shuttle Columbia should take place on schedule during the week of April 6th. Earlier this week, problems repairing the external fuel tank threatened another delay for the shuttle, already 3 years behind schedule. And given the possibility of another hitch, an official cautioned, my personal opinion is the launch will be sometime in mid-April. This is my last broadcast as the anchorman of the CBS Evening News. For me, it's a moment for which I long have planned, but which nevertheless comes with some sadness. For almost 2 decades, after all, we've been meeting like this in the evenings, and I'll miss that. But those who have made anything of this departure, I'm afraid, have made too much. This is but a transition, a passing of the baton. A great broadcaster and gentleman, Doug Edwards, preceded me in this job, and another, Dan Rather, will follow. And anyway, the person who sits here is but the most conspicuous member of a superb team of journalists. Writers, reporters, editors, producers, and none of that will change. Furthermore, I'm not even going away. I'll be back from time to time with special news reports and documentaries, and beginning in June, every week with our science program, Universe. Old anchormen, you see, don't fade away. They just keep coming back for more. And that's the way it is. Friday, March 6th, 1981. I'll be away on assignment, and Dan Rather will be sitting in here for the next few years. Good night.
This has been the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite.